Hello and welcome to Mental Health Monday. I'm Jerry Walker, and I have the privilege tonight of doing a follow-up interview with my very good friends, Paula MacKenzie Aitken. And so we're just going to start. This is going to be a conversation, just as it was in August when we last met, and they were just getting ready to. Oh gosh, Paul, what were you? You were just getting ready to leave Boise and head across the country and make it somehow into Canada in the midst of a pandemic, right? And buy an inn and start. And you did that. So, wow, we've got a lot to cover. Welcome. And I'm so glad to see you all again. How are you all doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah, everything's going well. When we last spoke, you're right. It was actually the day before we left, and our conversation was basically the last official thing that I was doing at Cathedral of the Rockies. And the next morning, we got into the truck, and we had a 26-foot trailer behind us, and we headed off and went 5,000 kilometers, 3,000 miles across the country, and actually skirted right across the midsection of the U.S., down underneath the Great Lakes, through New York and up through Maine, and crossed at New Brunswick. It began a whole new world, a whole new journey.
It's a very long drive.
So when you say, I'm sorry.
So it's a very long drive.
Yes. And when you recap it, it sounds like, oh yeah, we just got in the car in the truck and we just took off. I'm sure most of those miles had stories all of their own.
That's right.
And I hopefully we will get to read something about that someday. So when you reflect back on where you are today, and today is a big day for you all because you just said goodbye to a first group of guests that you're in. Is that right?
Yep. We had 8 guests overnight. They were in 3 rooms. We have a 4-person suite and then two other double rooms. And served breakfast between 8 and 9 a.m. and got them out the door by 10. It was pretty epic. It was our first big push today.
Yep, and it went really, really well.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. And to think that I can remember just about a year ago, we were sitting in your backyard and you were saying, I feel like our lives are going to be changing. And all of us were in that place too of wondering, oh my, what is this about, and how different life felt then, and even a year later, how we're all still trying to put our heads and hearts around what has happened. But you had what I would think it sounded like just a real clear path. And as you look back on that conversation and your, what I consider truly a faith journey, this is an addition to your faith journey that you have taken. So what are the surprises that you have encountered along the way?
Well, there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of surprises. And I think, for those who may not be aware of our story, our story of heading into inn ownership in Eastern Canada didn't happen just on a whim. It happened. We made that decision a few months after MacKenzie had a stroke during surgery to repair an aneurysm. And then about 6 weeks after she'd had her stroke, MacKenzie lost her youngest son, Caden, to suicide, which was equally as devastating or more. And then a month later, we had the beginning of COVID, and so it was just like this 1, 2, 3 punch that made us truly sit back and reflect, what are we supposed to do with with all of the new cards that we've been dealt? And so we had long conversations during the beginning of COVID, because all you could do was sit, look at each other and talk. It's either that or Netflix. And we really, truly decided to simply just take our what our dream of retirement was and bump it up about 10 or 15 years. And so that's exactly what we did. And actually, I'm really glad with the decision that we made. It's not been easy. I'm now finding myself, I have found 80 different ways of making eggs. Because when you have a B&B, there is this expectation that you know how to cook a decent egg. So that's been, I feel like that's been a surprise. I didn't know exactly what went into the creative process of developing a menu. And then, how to fold sheets well. And so that when they go on a bed, they look crisp and clean and inviting. And so it's been fascinating living through our first Canadian winter in Nova Scotia. Was amazing.
In a very old house.
Actually, we had to go through the process of our houses, and basically it's three different. There are three large buildings or large zones and we actually shut off two parts for the winter, and so two parts of the house were completely and utterly winterized. And so going through that process, it just the things that I never thought I'd do.
And it sounds like, there's some commonalities when you talk about getting ready to open an inn and getting ready to premiere a composition. Right. There's all of the details and some you may not even know until you get there and you go, whoa.
What's really interesting? I thought about that just the other day, because I was thinking the similarity to opening the inn is very, very similar to getting ready for CATC, for Christmas at the Cathedral. It really is. You have to think through every possible thing that could come up, so that you are eliminating all of the questions or answering all the questions before they happen. And I think that's really been one way that I've reached back to what I did for many, many years, for a couple of decades. So because I'm using similar techniques and strategies, just to prepare. But yeah.
Wow.
What surprised
you? We've done several of these Mental Health Mondays have been about grief. And so, and what all the books say, now that I can say this to you, because I'm sure it's not a surprise, that, during that first year of significant loss, that you hold tight and you are careful on the decisions you make. However, grief is our own individual journey. And it is, you can read books and certainly there are wonderful resources out there, but we all at the end of the day have to take it in and make it our journey. And so what you all have done goes against what everybody writes about. And yet, here you are, and you have a success story right now of how you decided to make this huge move out of the country,
which you're not
supposed to. Yeah. I mean, you're putting sheets on a bed instead of maybe being two sheets in the wind. Well, I don't know. But anyway, you've crafted something totally different. Tell me about how the grief, because we do know, I believe universally, is that grief, we can't leave grief. We can't run away from it. It goes in we pack it in our boxes, it's in our suitcase because it's in our heart. Tell me about how you've gone through some major anniversaries since you got there. So tell me about that, how that's been.
You want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
It's hard, for sure. Like you said, it's not like we moved away from our problems. One thing that I keep in mind is that Caden lives in my heart. Caden will always be with me because Caden comes with me in my heart. So it's not like I've left him behind somewhere. And it's not like he's still in Boise. He's right here with me. He will always be right here with me.
Yes.
And nothing will ever change that.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I don't still have conversations with him, and I always will. I have his pictures on the wall here, and I visit with him every day. Every time I pass his photo, I have a conversation with him. And I will always do that because he's my baby.
Absolutely.
And I enjoy asking him how he is, telling him how much I love him and I miss him. And I'm very proud to be his mom, and I'm very proud to have him as my son. And nothing will ever change that.
Yeah, the big anniversaries were really hard. I think that the toughest one for me was New Year's. I actually spent New Year's with Caden.
Well, I was in surgery.
Well, it was after you'd come out of that last surgery. It was after you'd had the stroke, and he and I, he rang in the new year. It was as it was together, and I brought him out a little. All I could get was a Sprite and a bag of popcorn at midnight, because that's all we had sort of access to, and we split the Sprite and cheersed and said, things will. This one's rough, but it'll get better. And so I thought a lot about that over the new year and everything that happened to you. There was just so many memories that now accompany New Year's Eve for me, for us. And then of course his birthday was actually the first big anniversary last September. And then of course the anniversary of his passing was really, none of them are easy. But for MacKenzie and me, we at least have remained really communicative throughout everything. And which oddly COVID sort of created. I think if COVID had not been a thing, I might have buried myself in work, and if you hadn't had a stroke, you would have buried yourself in work. Had the same thing happening to Caden. I don't know, and it likely would have caused more of a wedge. But we've said over and over and over again to one another that we feel more. We just feel more connected, and that our marriage is stronger now than it was even a year and a half ago. So in an odd turn of events, everything, all the horrible junk that took place and that happened, in some ways created a better marriage for MacKenzie and me. And I really struggle saying that sometimes, because
not that we recommend it.
No, but it was a positive outcome of everything that we went through and experienced.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of intention there.
Yes.
That you all together and individually intended for this to work.
Yes.
And worked hard. I mean, this has not been easy. Of course not. And
well,
go ahead.
So one of the things that we've said, MacKenzie and I have said several times, is neither one of us were ever anything much more than a wannabe A student. We didn't go into this with the intention of getting a failing grade. We wanted this to be a success. We to put a scholastic umbrella over it. We wanted to get an A in the class, and so we've put everything into it. You're right. It's been tremendously intentional. About how we've experienced it and gone through it.
And we're both big believers that even when you can't control your circumstances, you can control your mindset about whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
So you can choose to be positive or you can choose to be negative. And we choose to wake up each day with a positive outlook.
Yes.
Even when that's been hard.
I mean, even when it's hard.
And you, MacKenzie, really just model that every day with the obstacles, the fact that you weren't walking and then you began and then you started getting, some feeling back. And so every time you took that to the next step. So you have modeled that.
Thank you.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, she left her 4-point cane behind in a room, just left it sitting there, and she picked up her single point cane, and
now I use my pretty single point because it has butterflies.
Yeah.
All right.
And decided this is the one I'm going to use, and it's going to be a learning curve to get used to that one because it doesn't stand up by itself, and so she took a risk and went for it, and so the next level is walking without one, or minimally,
wow.
or walking longer distances. So she gets around the house by herself quite well, and she does stairs okay with help. And
yeah, it's fun to sneak up on Paul and Wilson. They won't know I'm coming, and
all of a sudden she's in the kitchen.
Surprise them in the kitchen. They turn around. They're like, "Whoa! I didn't know you were there." I love to do that.
She's really sneaky.
That's my favorite.
They both need a supervisor, MacKenzie. Let's face it.
Yep, that's my job.
I don't know why you think I need a supervisor. She says, as my former supervisor.
She knows exactly
I know
why I need to be there.
Yeah, somebody's got to keep me in line.
The pictures that you send of the area you were in Nova Scotia, oh my gosh. And I can't, because I'm all about analogies and metaphors. When I see that tide that comes in, when I think of certainly the grief process, but even broader than that, all of our lives, how we have those times of, where the tide just comes in and then again, and the predictability of that is, I would think, just so symbolic of your journey and where you've been. So
actually, Jerry, one of the things that I've really found has been a bit of a faith beacon, or it has been the lighthouse, and there's a lighthouse that we can see from parts of the house. And when it's foggy, or during a storm, and we had a few winter storms that were, that shook the house, and it was fun. But off in the distance, you hear this beacon of the lighthouse, and it's just this constant reminder that somebody's there, and something is looking out for us, and really that has. I can't tell you how often I've thought that and felt that and experienced that constant reminder in the storm is this
God is always there.
Loving lighthouse that just reminds you that you are still loved.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's been a fascinating one for me.
Me too.
Yeah. So you're getting ready to embark on your opening, right? Is it May that everything starts?
Open in May. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the season here, the vacation season, the holiday season in Parsboro is basically May through the end of October. Those are statistically the nicest months in weather-wise. That's when the flowers are out and the leaves are on the trees and so forth, and the tourists are in town. But honestly, the spring has been very beautiful.
Yeah.
We had really quite a mild winter. We had some snow for a couple months and then it went away, and that has been really quite lovely. The spring flowers are blooming out front, and so it's actually one of the reasons why we decided to do a slightly early opening, so that we could get our feet wet on the occasional weekend date. But yeah, it's been really, really nice, and to get started and know that there is that we're going to get moving, and things are going to continue to truly move forward here, and that the purpose that we intended is actually coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That must just be so fulfilling and exciting and a little scary and
right.
all of those things. So
well,
I know when we talked, Paul, in August, you weren't at a place where music was, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was, you just couldn't go there yet. So since the move, and I know you all have been busy, I've watched you on Facebook and all the painting and the stripping of wallpaper, all the stuff. Does it feel any different for you now about your other big career as a composer and conductor?
It has changed, and grief will always rear its head at any time, and because we are feeling beings, and but that it's fewer and farther between, and which is, it's really, I'm glad for it at this point. Mm-hmm. I haven't spent a lot of time in the music realm, and perhaps that's been a little intentional. But I have been working on our Carnegie Hall concert for April of 22, and trying to get some create a plan for getting back into that. But for right now, our primary focus has been here at home, and I've been okay with that, because music was something that was almost too close to my heart to do it well, and I found myself far too frequently being emotionally overwhelmed in the moment. And so here again, COVID has sort of allowed me the space that I've needed to grieve and to heal. And I'll never heal completely, but at least, perhaps by the time we get a little further down the road, maybe only the scar will remain. And so it's actually one of the reasons why we made the decisions that we did when we did, because it just seemed like the world had stopped. It was okay to simply open the door, step out, mm-hmm. get into another life scenario, and start fresh. And because I think any other time, if the world had been running along at 100 miles an hour like it normally is, that I think that would have been a lot more jarring for me professionally, and mm-hmm. perhaps even the church. This way, I think it was the fewest amount of ripple effect, at least from my perspective, anyway. I don't know how it looked for you.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, sorry for extra ripples.
But anyway, it has been, I just looked forward to this. And before you sent me the text, hey, I had it on my list because I was like, it's that time. It's been, several months, and we do need to catch up with each other and hear how the story continues and the faith journey continues. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of people watching tonight, I know, that love you dearly from Boise and maybe from all over. And what would you like to say to them?
Let you go.
Just that we love and miss all of you too. And thank you for all of your continued prayers, because they really do make a difference. And we appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just that we love our Boise family.
Yes, we do.
You are always in our heart. And we will see you again.
Yep, we will be back to visit sometime.
Yes. And tell me about that room that you're setting in. It just looks like a very fun room to be in.
So actually, metaphorically, this is a fascinating room that we're in right now, because there is basically a house behind me, and there's a house in front of me, and this is a sunroom that connected two homes on the same street. Mm-hmm. So both were built around the same time in the 1890s, but it was about the mid 1980s that the owner of the house behind me bought this house in front of me and built the sunroom.
And between the house in front of you.
Yeah, and they created the Maple Inn. But this is just a bright, sunny room that we opted to keep the wallpaper in here and not change a whole lot, because we didn't want it to change. It was sort of very iconic, and so we let it. But we did put here. This is Caden's quote that was read at his funeral.
Yes.
And that's on the wall here.
Beautiful. Wow. Well,
the house in front of us was the Methodist parsonage.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. This was all ordained, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. The house to the east was the Methodist parsonage up until 1934, and the house behind us was the Cumberland County Hospital from 1947 until 1975. Mm-hmm. Lots of history here. There's never a day goes by that I don't go downtown and somebody says, "Hey, you're the owner of the Maple Inn." I was born there.
It's kind of cool.
Wow.
It's very cool.
Yes. And I would think from the community standpoint, just seeing you all take this on and create what you're doing, what a wonderful gift you're giving to them as well.
And I will say, not to leave the people of Harsborough out, they have been absolutely wonderful.
Yes, they have.
When you move to a small town of about 1,000 change, you don't know exactly how you're going to be received, but the people of Harsborough have been beautiful to us. They've really, we came from a church of 3,500 and a wonderful community in Idaho. And I feel like we've been similarly received here. Yes. There's sort of a similar vibe of taking care of one another and looking after one another and holding each other up when you need to be cared for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how wonderful.
Yeah.
And community, when you say that, this year has, I think, taught us all that our community aren't the people only that enter our doors, but it's all the people that we connect with that we didn't even realize were in our community. And as a church, we've realized that. And it's so great that even though you're thousands of miles away, we're still community. and we always will be. And we love you too. I hear from so many people all the time, well, did you see what Paul put on Facebook and all the wonderful things you're making and baking and creating? And it's just been, we've been following you. So we do look forward when we can in person see you again and visit. I'm sure you may have a choir sometime that just you could put on your front porch and let them know exactly who the Cathedral of the Rockies, who we are. So
we can't wait.
That would be great. So again, both of you, it's so wonderful to see you. And let's keep connecting and wish you the very best as you enter into this busy season. And all that God has in store for you and for us. And let's keep connected. Anything else that you need to say?
No.
Just loved you all.
Yeah.
I continue to be grateful to the COTR staff and for just continuing to reach out to us frequently, actually, and continue to treat us like family.
Yeah.
Great. And that's what we are. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.